Okay.
So we're at 7 right now. That means that there's maybe a few more people to come.
Yeah, it's 8:01. Shall we wait a minute or so?
Yeah.
A minute or two? Okay.
Hi, Trish. If everybody just make sure you have some water with you and your chocolate bars. See, I got the special version of the Tanzania one, orange. There we go.
Green
And
screen
also,
orange.
the tasting resources. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I printed those out. I'm going to grab mine. I like these. Thank you for sharing them, Glenn.
Of course. Yes. So Tiara, I think that message should go to Enna. So yeah, Enna, so Tiara doesn't have her chocolates yet. They're coming on Monday.
Oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm glad you're joining us so you can follow along, and you'll have chocolate envy tonight, but then Monday you can savor it at your own pace.
Yep.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, and then obviously you'll get like a whole exclusive tour tonight as well, and you get to hear all about Enna and her journey. So yeah. No
Since
worries.
it's being recorded, people
Yeah.
can watch it afterwards if they didn't get, because I know Shay said
Yeah.
that hers was delayed too. So I'm assuming that one of you will send out a link so that they can follow along after. Yeah.
Yeah,
we will. This will be super helpful because the USPS, I didn't find out until yesterday that everything is delayed and it's a bad scene. So a lot of these shipments were a couple days later than I expected them to be this week.
Yeah.
So we'll share this with everyone, and hopefully we can also welcome other folks and you guys all into the shop for a tour one of these days.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess it's almost 5 after. Do you want to just start it off and then
let's dive in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. I'm Enna Grazier of Enna Chocolate. I know almost all of you, and I'm really grateful to those of you who supported our Indiegogo campaign. Glenn, our co-host tonight, also was actually one of our sponsors as well for our Indiegogo campaign. We raised almost $24,000, which we used to build out the space that I'm in. It was a huge goal, and I was blown away that we met it. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic, just struggling to keep up with orders. So we're just immensely grateful to each of you and everyone else who you've shared my chocolate with. So I'm going to give you a tour, but first I want to introduce you to Glenn. He is a chocolate expert, connoisseur. He knows how to make chocolate. He's had his own company making chocolate and worked with several other regarded chocolate companies in the world of bean to bar. And he now has his own business developing chocolate tasting, sensory training, and other educational and fun experiences for people.
Sure. So hi everybody. I think I know maybe one person outside of Enna on this call, but I want to just thank you all for being here tonight, and it's been a pleasure to see Enna's journey, her second journey through crowdfunding. And I thought, what better way to help support than get to kind of push forward a nice evening for chocolate tasting. And so with Chocotastery, I do lead virtual chocolate tastings in the age of the pandemic. I've had history of making my own bonbons and truffles and my own chocolate many years ago, and then I moved to Seattle 2017 to 2018. I was there making chocolate in Pike Place Market with Indie Chocolate for a bit. Came back and then kind of fell on to what do I want to do next? And what do I love most about chocolate? and it was eating it, and then teaching people how to taste it and to enjoy it more and to learn more behind the scenes of what happens to further appreciate everything that goes into it. So, so we kind of just got off the ground this year with virtual tastings, and now they're in full force for the holiday season. And it's just a really great way to bring everybody together at this point. And that's my story. And I created these guides, 2 years ago, and a tasting sheet. So before, like when we'll get to the tasting, we'll go through each one, each of them, and kind of go through the behind the scenes of what everything means. But I'll throw it back to Enna, and we can get the ball rolling on the fun stuff she has in store for us.
Well, a couple of you have been to my shop, but most of you haven't. So I'm going to pick up my computer and give you a mini tour. I'm in the factory side. Behind me are my chocolate grinders. That's R2, and that's CC, and there's an outlet in the middle for a third when we're ready to put a third machine in. I'll go into the cafe and show you around here first. So this is the cafe area. We have a beautiful metallic blue ceiling that I love. And this is behind the bar area. We actually have moved all of our furniture around. There's normally a lot of seating here, but right now it's just my packing and shipping project for the holidays. Lots of stuff ready to go out, lots of boxes ready to fill. And we have, my favorite part is this giant picture window that looks into the chocolate factory. And then I'll make sure I can see where my camera is going. So here's the factory. We roast our cacao in these tiny little home coffee roasters, believe it or not. I think I've told a few of you that the equipment to roast chocolate and coffee exists at a really small consumer scale and then a pretty large industrial scale. There's not a lot of options in the middle unless I build something, and even that is not easy. So we're roasting these little guys and it's going fine. After they roast, they go into the machines that I was standing by first for a couple days. And then we pour them out into giant trays and cool them in big blocks. These blocks are about 25 pounds each. And then the next step is to melt them. Here I have a big bowl of chocolate melting with 2 tempering systems. That's what this is. Tempering is the process of melting and controlling the rate of cooling for chocolate so that it cools and hardens into a texture that is smooth and shiny and palatable for eating. So that's the mini tour of my chocolate factory. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to eat chocolate, right? So any questions? Does everybody have their chocolate with them? We have Honduras, Haiti, Belize, and Tanzania, except Tiara, who's gonna take notes and taste hers on Monday. Hopefully it arrives Monday. Oh, Patricia wants to know what's in the Melander. That's a very good question. So
You're
CC,
reading my mind for Trish.
you see the big one there? We'll do that without dropping the computer in. That is, double check, Tanzania 80%. That machine actually is usually pushing Honduras 75% through, just batch after batch, 60 or 70 pounds at a time. We go through a lot of Honduras because that's what I use in a lot of my inclusion bars, those being the bars with peppermint or nut. That's what we serve in the cafe. So that big machine is just usually always Honduras. Tonight it's Tanzania. Then the little guy here is full of Haiti. And again, because we're trying to keep up with the holidays, we're putting single origin through that one too. But usually that little one, because it's easier to pull the wheels out and wash them, that little one is usually where I do milk chocolate or anything with allergens, so I can pull all the pieces out and take it apart between batches if we need to and really sterilize it, get rid of any allergens. But right now we're just pushing the single origin through both machines as fast as we can.
Yeah. So we didn't get the Haiti.
Oh, what do you have?
We have Honduras, Belize, Tanzania, and Trinidad.
Oh, Trinidad. Okay. Well, we could taste that one too if you'd like, because that one almost everybody here has it, and it's one of my very favorites. It's a really special bar. Paula's shaking her head. Paula? Do you have Trinidad as well, not Haiti?
And we have Haiti.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Susan.
Oh, that's
You
okay.
can add in a fifth bar. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll taste Trinidad too. It's a really neat origin, and actually, the following year's harvest is very different. So that's the last of my Trinidad for a while.
When you did the Dallas Chocolate Festival, which one did you have for that one? Was it the Trinidad? I don't remember. Wasn't there a little
That was
sample?
the Trinidad. Yeah, that
Okay.
was the
I
Trinidad.
ate that one already.
Oh, well, we can refresh your memory with it. Yeah, and somehow I'll have to make sure Tiara gets that bar. Yeah. So I have an idea about the sequence I like to go
I
in,
think it just
Glenn,
got
but
frozen.
maybe you do too. Oops, you still there, Glenn?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
you just got froze for a little bit. I think
Okay.
it's my connection. It says my internet's unstable.
Do you want to introduce folks to how we'll proceed with the tasting?
Yeah, let's do it. So,
Okay.
so everybody should have had access to print out or just download the guides. So what I'll do is just go through it, get a good sense of what to expect. It's a very simple, approachable, fun way to just as a tool to guide you through tasting any type of chocolate that you'd like. So the first step is looking at the shade of the brown color of the chocolate. Now, we have all dark chocolate today, right? But if you have a milk chocolate, you could still use like the light, but it's more meant for figuring out the difference between all of them. And the different shades, it's basically on the variety of the chocolate. Sometimes beans are rare and they're white beans based on their variety. It's kind of like how we all are unique. We all have our own DNA. So essentially, cacao is the same way. Cacao has its own DNA. They could be a hybrid of multiple different varieties, just like we have different backgrounds from different countries. And we have our own rich history. All the chocolate, all the cacao that's used, all has its own rich history. So that's where, depending on the variety, we can see and just observe. There's nothing, nothing's going to affect the tasting itself with the color. The next step is the snap, and this is the fun part where you get to hear how loud it is. And so basically, it's a sign of how well the chocolate is tempered. And so Enna just mentioned, the process that she uses. She uses a continuous tempering machine in the back over there. But when you hear that sound, that snap, it's a sign of how well the tempering is on the bar. And with that, tempering is when you have to melt down all of the cocoa butter fat crystals in the chocolate and then build it back up to a specific temperature range. And within that temperature range is it's like a bond of all the crystals. And then once it cools down and hardens, you get a nice shine, and then when you break it, you get a nice snap. So that's what we're looking for. So we're putting Enna to the test tonight. Does her machine actually temper very well?
My husband says a poor craftsman always blames her tools. So not the machine, not me, it's the machine.
If it is a dull, we'll just blame USPS. I think we all have our complaints for them, so we'll just blame them. So the next step is smelling the aromas. So once we snap the piece of chocolate, we want to smell, take it right to our nose. Don't be bashful if you get melted chocolate on your nose, it's okay. It happens to me all the time. But what you want to do is smell where you actually broke the chocolate. So that's where the fat is released and aromas are released into the air, and take short sniffs. That would help with the just recognition of the aromas going through your olfactory. And then lastly is the tasting portion, where we break a piece. We have a piece, or you want to break it a little bit more, whatever you want to do. But when you put it in your mouth, you don't want to like chew it and that's it. We want to just chew it, bite it once or twice, and then from there, let it melt, move it around, and then like wine. This is all like how you may drink wine at a wine tasting. They tell you, oh, swirl it and do this, that, the other. But the wine is also aerated, and that's what helps bring out the flavors of the wine and the aromas of the wine. The same can apply with chocolate when it comes to tasting it. When it's in your mouth, you could open up your mouth once or twice, let air in, and then once you start moving it around, then the aromas of the melting chocolate will go through your olfactory, and then you'll recognize exactly what types of flavors that could be. And if you have no idea what you're thinking, we have on the bottom we have different categories, different groups of flavors. Cacao has over 600 chemical compounds that are formed, and we can probably never know every single type of compound and know what every single flavor is in every single bar. It's just impossible. But what we think of is what we have maybe experienced some point in our lives, right? So outside of eating some hay and wood, we we basically could have eaten a lot of this, right? And so it could just be, you've tasted it in one form or another, or smelled it, or remember it in some fashion. So there's all different categories of earthy, nutty, fruity, chocolatey, dairy, floral, and spice. And so it's just a nice way to jog your memory. And with all tasting, everything is up to your discretion. There's no right or wrong answers. We may have flavors that come up that, there could be flavors on a bar that are like, okay, this is the flavor profile of the bar. But in essence, it's what the maker and the maker's team may have tasted. So it's all the flavors that we do taste are our own experience. And so if we all taste different things, that's great, because I think it's the beauty of doing what we all do here and what we all love to do. And that's taste chocolate, experience it, and then we can pick a winner. And that's the fun part. So with that being said, I think we're into, does anybody have any questions first before we move on? No questions? All right, cool. All right, so I think that we could start off, and we'll go first. So the order which we'll go through will be we'll go from highest to lowest in cacao percentage. And that's primarily because the less sugar at the beginning, the better. So your palate doesn't get fatigued and kind of, I guess fatigued is the best word.
That's the best phrase, palate fatigue.
Yeah.
I love it.
When you get a lot of, when you're eating a lot of sweeter chocolate with a higher sugar content, it may rip up your tongue almost. And it would make you think that an 80% bar is probably sweeter than it is normally. Yeah. So that's kind of the philosophy behind the tasting. So we have the 80% Tanzania, the special bar. Well, actually, it's green now. Cool.
That's weird.
Yeah. 75% Honduras. Then we'll go 74% Haiti. Then we'll go 72 Belize. And then we'll go 72 to Trinidad for those who have it.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I think at this point, we'll start off with the Tanzania. So Enna, please enlighten us and educate us. Tell us a story about your experience with Tanzania beans and with Cocoa Kamili and your philosophy.
Yeah,
behind
so
that.
Cocoa Kamili is the company that buys beans from farmers throughout a very large area of Tanzania. And then they buy them from farmers who are mostly small, very small farmers who might have a couple of acres that they're farming multiple items on and selling them all at the market or the local village, or in this case, they're selling them at what they call the farm gate, which is Cocoa Kamili drives a truck through and through a region, and they'll stop at each farm and purchase fresh cacao direct from those farmers. And then they'll take it back to a central facility where they process the beans, which means they'll ferment the seeds all together for the fermentation part is about a week, and then they dry for 2 to 3 weeks after that. And Cocoa Kamili pays a significantly higher, well, all of our producers pay a much higher dollar rate to the farmers than the commodity market buyers. They are also able to guarantee rates and prices in advance, extend loans. Cocoa Kamili does a lot of work to build up infrastructure. When I check in with them, I follow them on social media. I've met them in person a couple times at different chocolate events. But what I see on social media, their activities, just like I'm sharing, here I am pouring beans into the grinder. They're often sharing that they're out repairing a bridge that is a vital part of getting people from A to M or to Z in their broader community. It's necessary for transporting beans, but by proxy, the surrounding communities and families also benefit from an accessible road and improved infrastructure that'll help them get to clinics and schools and other important facilities. This happens, we need to go ahead and taste it. But I was going to say, this happens to be the first bean that I fell in love with when I started learning how to make chocolate. It had a really special smell right out of the bag. Some cocoa beans don't have a strong smell before they're roasted. Some don't smell great. Some do smell wonderful. This one smells just absolutely beautiful, right out of the bag.
Cool.
So I opened mine. I snapped it. Did you guys snap yours?
Did we see the color? Yeah, shiny that is.
It's very chocolatey brown.
Yeah. So we'll use that as the baseline.
Chocolatey brown and shiny.
All right. I'm going to just snap it so you could hear it. That's all coming all the way from Hoboken, New Jersey.
I want to know what Glenn smelled.
Tropical fruit. I've worked with Tanzania beans in the past, and I'm getting like hints of banana, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go in for it.
I'm getting almost like a honey aroma, or honey or floral.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I sense that too. Now that you said honey, Patricia, I'm tasting honey. That's not normally something I taste. Tasting, it can be a little subjective.
I was going to say the power of suggestion, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this is a really fun bean for me to work with from one year to the next, because Cocoa Camellia's quality is very consistent. The flavor profile itself can vary quite a bit from one year to the next. I'm comfortable, confident ordering their beans in pretty large volumes every year. But every year, these fruity notes can change. They vary for me a lot between citrus and sweeter fruit, generally tart fruit, but different kinds of tart fruit. Do you taste banana, Glenn?
Not as much as the,
I see, I got
there is
mushrooms.
like the florally notes. Like there, I don't know what flowers, because I don't really eat flowers. But
Really?
it definitely has like the floral.
Hibiscus. You've tried hibiscus, right? How about a tart
That's-
hibiscus?
I've had hibiscus in another
Tart
bar.
quality for sure.
What is everybody else tasting? I'd like to see what everybody else is tasting.
Enna?
Feel free to chime in through the chat or, you know,
Make sure and,
share. We're a small group, so feel free. Don't be bashful.
I heard somebody say mushroom, and I want them to talk. That's what I mean.
I got mushroom
Yeah.
on the nose, actually, when I had a little bit of a mushroom nose, and then tropical too.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But
Interesting.
in the mouth, I get more of a tropical flavor
yeah.
in the fruit.
Or even like a sour cherry, maybe.
For wine people, so some of our terms may sound like wine terms.
But that's
I think
excellent.
That's often the case with chocolate.
Is our microphone working?
Yes.
Oh.
Now we hear.
And I was just wondering, when you say there's a difference from year to year, is that related to climate, do you think, or is it something else?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think climate is, the soil's not changing. In this case, the farmers are not really making significant changes to their practices. I think it is the climate. I think it is, rainfall, either during the growing season or during the fermentation or during the drying season, as well as the level of heat during all of those things. If the air temperature drops a lot, that'll really slow down the fermentation process, which changes the sequence in which all the different microbiological processes are happening, and that can really upset the flavor. And if the weather's wet while they're drying, they'll take a lot longer to dry, and certain aromatic aspects of the bean, acetic acid, will either escape or be locked in, depending on how that rate of drying is changed.
Have any of your source places encountered fires like they have in California, which affected the taste of the wines they're growing out there?
Oh, I'm not aware of that. Are you, Glenn?
No, I haven't had
Oh,
my.
good.
I think, with regards to forest deforestation,
Yeah.
or just entirely razing of cacao farm in order to make room for other crops or other kinds of development, is the more significant issue. And both of those result in not growing the cacao in that place at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was going to say that with Tanzania, I think Paula asked what flavor differences we note from one year to the next. With Tanzania, every year that I've worked with it, I discovered tart fruits. But some years, a couple years ago, it was strawberries and cream. The first year I fell in love with it, making it was really sparkly raspberry. Last year, the previous harvest, I got more citrus, more tart citrus and tart berries. And the new beans I'm working with and that's what you guys are tasting tonight, have a sweeter, more raisiny, still that tart fruit flavor, but a little bit more little bit deeper sweetness than the previous year.
So which harvest is
me.
this? Which harvest
This
is
is
it?
2019.
Okay.
Cool.
So I was gonna say, I get a little bit of eucalyptus on the nose.
Ooh.
I was struggling to figure out what exactly it was, and we had just tasted a wine that had some eucalyptus on the nose. So I had to go back and look at my notes to see what it was.
There is definitely a cooling aspect
Yeah.
to a flavor profile that we find in some chocolate. And
Yeah,
it's
cool.
really hard for me to name it, whether it's fir or eucalyptus or mint, because it's not exactly like each of those. But I also have that mouth cooling sensation that I think it might be what you're describing as eucalyptus.
Right, because it's not quite eucalyptus, but that might be the closest word I could come to. Interesting.
Fascinating.
Yep. You see everybody's experiences in life are bringing about all of these various different flavor notes. It's great. Awesome. All right.
Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah. So if anybody has a water to cleanse your palate, what we also suggest is like a water cracker if you have it, or I'm sure everybody's just ready to like go into the cupboard and get some soupy polenta, but that's what the awards tasters they use between tastings. And they do a lot of tastings, and that's been the most neutral palate cleanser. With water crackers, you could totally use it if you could taste them if you'd like, but just make sure that they're all like all the crumbs are out of your mouth, and all that. But
when this pandemic is over, I'm going to host a soupy polenta chocolate tasting night.
I always say it in all my tastings. I never make it, and I never purchase polenta in my life. But I have had it a couple of years back when I was hanging out with the Indie Chocolate team. We actually did a tasting, the level 1 and level 2 of the chocolate tasting program, ICCI or something like that. And we had like a lot of soupy polenta that weekend, but yeah, it's the best.
Okay, so Haiti.
Yes. No, are we doing?
Oh, Honduras. Sorry, Honduras.
Honduras. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So what's the story behind Honduras?
Honduras is such a special bean. This is another one. The Tanzania, the Honduras. I'm in love with these. I love them. Honduras is very consistent in quality. A lot of processing facilities. I haven't personally fermented cocoa beans, but that's let me preface this with that. But most fermentation facilities turn the cacao. Then the seeds of fruity mass are in giant wooden vats or boxes for about a week, and they turn them so that they have equal exposure to each other and to the air once, twice a day. At Honduras, they turn it every 4 hours, and it's usually drying during the rainy season, so it actually takes 4 weeks to dry. So these beans are treated meticulously to prevent mold from growing and to make sure that the fermentation process is moving along exactly as it should be. I think that's part of why the flavor is consistently absolutely beautiful. These are grown in the Wampuserpi jungle, which if anyone, I've recommended this to a few of you, the book, The Lost City of the Monkey God, which is about the discovery of an archaeological site in the forest where this cacao grows. It's one of the most dangerous places in the world. It's also the largest biodiverse region on the planet outside of the Amazon. They have the highest per capita murder rate in the world. outside of an active war zone. And I just learned on Saturday, this is actually really cool, considering that cacao is not the primary agricultural crop in this region. However, according to George, aka Jorge, who sources the beans for me, he flies in and boats in and buys them direct from the farmers. About 95% of the paper currency in this region is there as a result of this cacao, because the farmers prefer to be paid in cash. A lot of them don't have access to banks at all. So he goes in and pays cash. And therefore this part of the world is flush with cash from many parts of the world, not just US dollars. A lot of them, depending on how things are going, they don't want to be paid in US. So that, I found that to be fascinating. We have to eat this.
Mhm.
I can't hear you, Glenn.
Maybe if I unmute myself.
There you go.
I meant to say, let's compare the colors. So as you can see, this is the Tanzania, this is the Honduras. Right, it's flipped here. So this is, okay, yeah. So you can see, sorry.
They're both very chocolatey brown.
Yeah, but if you look really, really close, this one's lighter.
It is. Yeah.
Yep. And
Which one is that? The Tanzania?
Yep.
But I thought it
Yeah.
was the opposite. Like when I haven't opened both of them together, but maybe I need to. I thought that this one was slightly lighter in color.
Oh, I have a LED light here, a ring light that's like really bright, blinding
No,
me.
you're right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It's so subtle, but like if you look at it a certain way at a certain angle, it's
Yeah.
like this one, the Tanzania is just a little bit lighter.
Yeah, the Tanzania has a reddish tint to it.
Yeah, cool. All right, here's a
So
snap.
as Susan and Townie know, I'm not really the greatest at identifying tastes and flavors, so I want to try tonight. And I think this
Oh.
one has an aroma of coffee, but the taste is creamy.
Bingo.
I get the creamy and
I
fudge.
get the coffee too.
Yep. I get coffee. And one of the things that I absolutely love about this bean is that it has a milky flavor to it, even
Yeah.
though there's no milk in this chocolate.
Mhm.
I often call this our gateway chocolate for people who say they don't like dark chocolate. They think they only like milk chocolate. So we give them this one, even though it's a higher percentage than some of our other bars.
So I was getting like an earthy or a woody note aroma.
Mhm.
I said woody as well for the aroma.
This one has an herbal quality that I'm fascinated with. It's almost on the after breath. It's a chamomile kind of herbal quality.
Did you like
And that's the bean that we go through about 2 tons a year already. In a
Wow.
pandemic year, we've gone through 2 tons of that.
Oh,
And I can't keep up.
It's delicious.
Thank you.
which
That's my favorite eating bar, just for eating.
Yeah, I think I like this one.
for eating.
Anything to add, Glenn?
Yeah, I was trying to see, because everybody's saying all the flavor notes. So I was trying to like see, like, do I take that? Do I taste that? Do I taste that? Do I taste that? I've not had a lot of some of those flavors. So I just categorize it as like that earthiness, which
For
kind of
sure.
encompasses a couple of those different, like more granular flavor notes. Cool. All right.
That one also has an interesting, now that it's dissolved in my mouth and gone, there's an astringency that sometimes is hard for people to pin down and identify, but the astringency is that mouth drying quality. To me, it's not unappealing. There are often very unappealing astringent qualities in chocolate. But this is, to me, an example of one that's astringent only on the finish, but in an appealing way.
Yeah, it's not too much. Like if you're feeling like right like around like the jaw area, you're like all of a sudden like your mouth is filling up with water. That's it. That's the astringency. It's not too bad. So.
Yeah. Just enough that I want another bite.
All right. So I think it's time for bar number number 3, sorry. So we're going to the Haiti bar. Right. So your wrappers take a while to open, for me at least. I didn't unbox and open up all the wrappers beforehand.
I did it like a letter, and I kind of sliced the bottom with a letter opener because I didn't want to affect your little sticker on it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, smart. Yeah, and I'm kind of attached to folding the foil in a weird way, but maybe that's not very amenable to putting it back in the envelope. You just have to eat it all.
So there is I'm noticing that it's the same quote. What's the significance of that quote from Isabella Bird?
Well, one of the things I love about what I'm doing is the adventure part of it, the sense of discovery. And I want to share that excitement about discovery with everyone who opens my bars. Part of that means being in the moment, being present. And that quote is just one of the details that hopefully draws people in to be in the moment.
Very nice. And as I open up the package, I also just want to ask, because how long does it take you to wrap your bars?
Well, I'm very fast, but my staff are not as fast as me. There are a lot of steps here. We're fast at the foil wrapping, but then we have to stack it with this, get it in the envelope, pull the tape off the flap, put the flap down, and put the sticker. It is what it is.
No, yeah.
It used to have more steps because we used to have a white sticker on the front with a stamp, and we'd have to handwrite what the varieties are. So we've actually made giant leaps forward with our technology.
That's great. It's always
So
great.
sorry.
No, go. Just go.
Does your wrapper already come with a little star hole punched out, or do you have to hand do it yourself?
Okay.
Oh, got it.
We have our
There
little
you go.
bus punch. It's a bus punch. We do that here too.
Interesting.
This is what new baristas get to do when they're bored.
Sweet. All right. So so I think we're gonna look at. So this is the the Haiti, right? The wrappers all stuck together. All right. So the Haiti. This is the Haiti, and this is the Honduras. Let's see.
The Haiti is very dark.
Yeah. So
I can't tell on your camera, but generally I find that to be the darkest colored bean I work with. The Sierra Leone's pretty dark too, but this one, Haiti is very dark.
Yeah, it's. When I look into my screen, it shows like this one's lighter, but it's not.
I just see a funny guy with an orange background.
You know. Why I chose orange, I don't know. I think orange worked well with my logo, so I have an orange. I
like orange.
Update it soon anyway, but
all my
You
sticky
need
notes
it to be
today are orange.
seasonal. You need it to be seasonal, like you
Yeah.
had Halloween be orange and green will be for, Christmassy.
could do that. I have to see how it works from the logo. Yeah. All right. There. That was a decent snap. An easier snap.
We thought that was the loudest snap, right? Yeah.
All right, so what's everybody smelling with the Haiti?
Honey.
Ooh. Someone said honey.
We've got the different bar though.
Oh, you have Trinidad.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that one next.
Okay.
You could taste that one and see if it tastes like what we're describing for Haiti.
Good idea.
Well, I was going to say honey is one of the flavor profiles that I associate with my Haiti bar. Honey or a light nectar. It has an interesting mineral base.
Mhm.
I'm getting earthy and maybe roasted nuts as an aroma.
Mhm.
And then it's almost like a light apple on the
Yeah, there's a
palate.
really light tart. One person described it as apple Jolly Ranchers. Yeah, it's like a light cranberry or clover nectar, like pale, really pale honey flavor to me. This is the one Paula likes. I'm curious if Paula tastes the same thing as me.
The Sierra Leone is the one that doesn't give me a headache.
Oh,
So that's my choice.
what are your thoughts, Glenn?
So I did get some sweetness to it, like you were saying. The apple isn't as pronounced for me. But yeah, I'm still searching for that apple. Maybe it's that like little brightness that's there that you may connect it to an apple, and I don't, because I barely eat apples. Yeah, I do tastings and I don't taste a lot of things, but when I do taste things, they're great. I'm gonna take a second piece while you guys mull over that one again.
So we did all of mine.
Louise is left.
It could almost be like a really dark roasted peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have it finish.
Yeah, not quite finished.
You want that one?
There's that like richness to it.
Yeah,
Doesn't want to finish at all.
that one's been an interesting one to pair with wine. We've tried it with a few different things, but it's actually been really interesting with a sparkling Moscato, or I can look up what we tried with it last. It was something on the sweeter side, but it kind of surprised me with how it went well with a brighter, sparkly wine.
Cool. All right,
It's like
moving right
chocolate.
along. I think
Belize.
we're on to Belize now.
I love Belize.
So in Maya Mountain.
Can we just say something about the Trinidad? I thought the texture
Wait,
was different.
are we
This
not?
one.
Do we
But we're
want
the only ones with the Trinidad, so I just thought I would interject that
Okay.
for.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, we're on to Belize too, right?
Different color.
I like the light blue with Belize. I don't know why, but for some reason I like the light blue foil there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The plant cacao is native originally to the Amazon, but it traveled with people and with other animals and creatures throughout Central America in pre-white people time. It was cultivated throughout Central America and the northern part of South America. Glenn's looking at the colors.
Yeah.
It still looks like chocolate to me.
It literally looks pretty close to the Haiti. A little bit darker. No, not even darker. I don't know, my eyes are like shot right now. Too many browns. It's definitely darker than the Tanzania. All right, snap.
Yeah,
It's a pretty loud one.
snap, crackle, pop.
Oops.
It's pretty loud snaps.
Great.
This one has darker, ripe, or over ripened fruit notes to it, like raisin, dark plum, fig, and there's a spicy quality on the finish.
I could maybe eat a little more.
So this one's from the heart of where humans and cacao lived together, and people cultivated cacao. The Mayan people who continue to grow cacao now, before them, thousands of years ago, the Olmec. So this is the cacao that ostensibly Columbus might have encountered.
So we got a little orange on the nose.
Ooh, like a little mandarin.
Yeah.
I taste that.
Okay, so this is all
I'm still letting like the fruity, like it's not tart, like super tart, but it is bright.
Second one. Honduras.
Really good.
This is,
I'm getting some because you guys mentioned yarn. I'm getting a little bit of hints of that.
Of what?
The orange notes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The end.
I definitely get it, like a sweet mandarin orange flavor. Our Kellerman, I'm not sure what time you joined, but we're tasting Belize now.
Yeah. He joined about a half hour ago.
Well, welcome.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm not sure if it's who R is, but they left a message. Robert, there you go, Robert. Yeah, so
I'm a fan.
Yeah, and so we welcomed him before. Awesome. Yeah, what else? Any other notes that you guys want to talk about with the Belize?
It's almost like a cream cheese guava, like the cream cheese, the creaminess of it. Like
Yeah.
a cooked cream. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
Put perfume on.
I thought it was interesting that it starts out so bright and then it mellows into something more like plum, or as you said, and a raisin.
Yeah. Plum and raisin fudge.
Yeah. Like when it sits, like it's finished, you could still like get some flavor notes out of it. Or you could just like psychologically say, oh, that whatever I did taste was that flavor. It's great.
Right.
Yeah. Before I moved into this space, I did a lot of farmers markets, which I would have stopped doing during the pandemic anyway. But the farmers markets were a great place to experiment with how long the flavor would last. Because there were certainly some origins, Belize and Trinidad, probably the two of the ones we're tasting tonight, that would follow people if they tasted it and then went to the end of the market. And then they would come back and say, oh my gosh, I still taste that. The Trinidad and Belize both have a very long finish that's really pleasing for a long time. Yeah, and Belize is where we've been able to take guests with us, a group of chocolate fans, 10 or 12 people, to southern Belize to meet the farmers who are producing this cacao. We've done it 2 years in a row. We would have been planning it in February of 2021. Hopefully we can go in 2022. instead, we're sending money through Maya Mountain, who produces this cacao, to disperse to the farmers in the form of food boxes and first aid, other stuff that they need. All these cacao growing regions are hit pretty hard by the pandemic. You know, if you think of how the infrastructure is affecting us, just with it being hard for our kids to study from home instead of going to school, or hard to find thorax.
Yeah.
Things are just exponentially more challenging in these places where the infrastructure is not as developed as here. And then in addition to that, not being able to sell what for many of these farmers is the primary product of cacao. Some of them are selling it. Belize is getting cacao out, but some places are really locked in partially because of the pandemic. Peru is an example. We're not getting any beans from Peru, and we won't for quite a while.
Finish. For me, it's more of a texture issue. It's just a little stringency. What do you think?
The other thing that's happening in Belize, I was going to say, is that another significant part of their economy is tourism, and they're missing out on that, you know, for a year now. So I'm hoping we can go back and visit in another year to 2 years. And I'm also hoping that the people who host us are still able to host us, and we'll still be able to meet some of the same farmers. I'm sure that our procuring company, Maya Mountain Cacao, will still be there, but the individual farmers are impacted pretty seriously. They've had curfews of like 3 or 4 p.m. Enforced by the military through parts of this last 8 months. So it's been pretty hard.
Jeez. Bless you.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I think did we want to just go through the Trinidad, or are we? I think Susan and.
Does anybody else have Trinidad with you?
No. All right.
Oh, Roger does. Well, I will share briefly, because it is a really interesting origin for me to work with. The U.S. company that we work with to source these beans is called Meridian. They're located in Oregon, and they work with groups of farmers and other procurers in a few different, probably 10 or so regions around the world. One of those places is Trinidad and Tobago. Actually, I don't know if they get any cacao out of Tobago. Well, Trinidad. Meridian, about 3 years ago, sent a group of agronomists down to work with cacao farmers in Trinidad and help develop fermentation standards and processes to help raise the quality of the cacao that they were producing, which they were already growing and selling on the commodity market. But to sell to the fine flavor market, there's a higher standard and it pays a much higher dollar amount. So Meridian worked with a group of farmers, set up 13 different micro fermentaries around the country. And I sampled a few of the beans that came out of that project. This one, Trinidad, from Herbert Pasquale, is the name of the farmer, I completely fell in love with. So the following year, 2 years ago now, I reached out and asked how his beans were, and they said, well, funny you should ask, because the only beans out of this particular fermentation facility that we have been working on with about 5 different farmers, his are the only ones that really were of the standard that we wanted to import and sell on the fine flavor market versus channeling into the commodity cacao market, where it would be processed into cocoa butter or lower grade chocolate. So he only had 400 pounds. So I said, I'll buy it all. So I did. And this is really, truly one of the last bars. I'll probably have another 100 or so bars here. And that's it. But it's a very, very special batch. It has lovely molasses and wine notes and beautiful, very long, spicy and wine, aromatic, fermenty, but in the very best delicate wine fermentation quality finish.
I'm just in love with the aroma.
The aroma is
like a lot-
absolutely intoxicating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is like
it's
the
a,
wildest aroma out of the 4 other ones in this one.
it's,
Um,
What's that?
the initial taste is pomegranate molasses.
We're still talking about the Trinidad?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I also thought that it was, the flavors were very subtle. And the texture, I think I mentioned before, I thought was different than the previous two. Really good.
now Mr. Pasquale he's only producing a very small amount. So his spring of 2020 harvest, which was really the export of the previous 12 months, is what just landed most recently in the US. And we got 1 bag out of 6, or 6 bags total, that Meridian brought. And that's all he produced. And it's, I'm wrestling with roasting it. I'm wrestling with every aspect of it. It's not the same beautiful ferments that this one that you're tasting has. So what I do have, those of you who are local, you'll get to taste it in different forms as I wrestle. We're going to try milk chocolates. We'll try a couple other things with it, but ultimately, I think it's not to the standard that I am expecting and hoping for with what you are tasting tonight, and what Patricia tasted, and Roger also in the Dallas Chocolate Festival.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
How do you choose when you're going to put milk, to do a dark milk? Or how do you choose what percentage to make when you get a batch of beans? Like, what's your process? If you can share it.
Yeah. So I like to add only enough sugar so that the bitterness or sour or challenging aspects of a bean are not too distracting. I don't like to bring it down really sweet. A lot of makers work with 70 or 72% because mathematically that's kind of the perfect cocoa butter, sugar, cocoa solids formula. That's about as low as you can go with cacao and not add other ingredients to make sure that your cocoa butter ratio is correct. But B is also a really appealing sweet level for just about anyone. But I like to push these a little higher so that we can really appreciate and experience the other flavor notes. Like with the Tanzania, I really want that fruit to stand out. And the fruit has a natural sweetness. I don't want to overshadow that with the flavor of an experience of sugar. Some beans, I really find I like at a very specific percentage, like the Haiti, that it's 74% is kind of a joke because people think, oh, it's going to be lighter than the Honduras. It's not. It's just a different bean, so it tastes different. That 1% sugar difference doesn't actually make it taste that different from if it were made at 75%. What makes it taste different is the Haiti bean. But then at the same time, I don't like that Haiti bean made at 70% or 80%. I really like it in that middle zone. The Honduras, I love at every single percentage I've made it with, whether it's 60% with milk or 95% or 100%. I've even made it at 110%, which is really 100% with a handful of nibs on top. But I had to make that for our being procured in Honduras.
So Enna, do you find you have to change your formula every year then for some of these?
Well, I haven't had to till now. And the Trinidad, I brought up adding milk in a way that I haven't done until now, which is really as a crutch to make the bean work, because I now own the beans and I have to do something with them. But historically, I've only added milk because I wanted to see how milk played with that milky flavor quality in the Honduras, or I wanted to see how it offset the strong jammy notes of the Tanzania. So yeah, that'll be a new thing with the Trinidad if we go the milk route. Does that answer your question?
So pardon me if you answered this already, but what factors went into causing that change? Weather or delayed picking or
Well, the first round that resulted in the magical batch that I adore that you're eating tonight, that one actually had some really significant weather challenges during the processing and the post-processing. So during the fermentation, it was cold, too cold for the fermentation to be really great, but somehow it turned out great anyway. And then during the drying, the reason that the other farmers who were drying at the same time, the reason that their cacao all got routed into the commodity market instead of the fine flavor sector with Mr. Pasquale's beans is that it was a terribly rainy part of, more rainy than usual year. And the beans dried slower than expected. When they dry too slow, they risk developing mold on the interior of the bean as well as the exterior. And that mold can't be seen, but you can taste it. So it's kind of, I think there were some uncontrolled aspects to that year that just Mr. Pasquale got lucky and gave us these absolutely beautiful beans. But I need to reach out and see exactly what was different because I do want to continue working with him. And this is a challenge and actually a wonderful part of working with my intermediary, which is Meridian, because I'm too small to put my money on the line and just buy, all 600 pounds that he produced and just deal with it. But Meridian, my go-between, has made that commitment to him to help see him through these rough patches, which are inevitable with developing a quality product. So I'm really, really grateful that I can work with Meridian to help Mr. Pasquale and the other farmers make this a sustainable endeavor. It's really a very long-term commitment. The trees themselves aren't fully productive and fruiting until they're 5 or 10 years old. And then the science of that fermentation and drying is really complex. And there are factors that are out of our control, like the weather. We say the farmers, maybe someone gets sick in the family and they can't tend to them for a day. That can make all the difference too.
very interesting.
Hey, Anna, if you had the same batch of beans given to two different chocolate tiers, will you see a substantial difference in the,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
could you recognize?
I'm going to show you something. Yeah, this is really, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. I just participated in a tasting with Dandelion Chocolate last weekend, and they got beans from 6 or so different makers, all the same Honduras that I use. So they have several different makers, and we tasted them all. This is mine. You guys tasted it tonight. And even Dandelion, they have a Japanese factory and an American factory working with the same bean, in this case it's the same percentage, but because they have different people in charge of roasting at those two facilities and roasting for different customer segments, they're going after different flavors. And each of these bars, a lot of them have a Honduras, that base Honduras quality that we identified tonight, that fudgy quality, some of the earthy, not fruity notes. But from there, they diverged, and every maker goes in a different direction with what they're interested in or what they want to highlight.
So we have, talking about Honduras, we still have one bar of the Chacura.
Oh, nice.
And how did the processing of that work with the whiskey barrels?
Yeah, so Tamworth is a distillery in New Hampshire. I'm glad Glenn has that.
Of course.
they approached me about a year ago now and said that they had this whiskey barrel. They were going to do an experiment. They wanted to give it to Liar's Bench Brewing, a brewery near here, let them age beer in it, and then send the barrel on to me. They wanted to see how many different makers they could get the barrel to pass through. So when it came to me, it was dry and it was spent. It had already aged first rye and then beer, and so we woke up the barrel, which involved pouring 4 bottles of the original rye whiskey into the barrel, rolling it around on the floor so that all the slats would get wet and expand and close the air gaps in the barrel stage. And then we filled it with roasted winnowed Honduras cacao. So cacao that was ready to go into the grinder here, but instead we intercepted it and put it in this barrel. So we put it in the barrel that it was not full of liquor. It only had 4 bottles. Really, just the surface of the barrel was wet with whiskey, and then the staves themselves had absorbed whiskey over the aging process of the distillery. And then we stored those nibs in that barrel for 6 months.
6 months.
While we built out this factory, and then finally 2 months ago we opened up the barrel and pulled the nibs out and started processing them in the grinder. So it has a very delicate whiskey aroma to the flavor. It's not overwhelming. Some makers will actually soak the beans in liquor and then dry it off in the oven, and I think that results in a stronger liquor flavor. But this is really a delicate, kind of more of an aroma aspect to the flavor.
So I was going to ask, you didn't have to dry the nibs a second time after you got them
I
out
actually
of the...
did, to be safe. We put them in a super low oven, not high enough to roast it, but low enough to warm enough to dry them. We basically did like a half hour to 45 minutes in like a 150-degree oven. A lot of small, shallow tray batches, and the kitchen smelled like a distillery.
And did you choose the Honduras because it's kind of middle of the road in terms of percentage?
I didn't want to interrupt the rye whiskey flavor with fruit from the other origins. And Honduras has really subtle flavors, but it also is strong. So I felt like it could hold its own, even though it would be subtle.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Yeah, and we partnered with Tamworth Distillery, so they actually did the packaging design for that bar and put Mount Chicora on the front, and we co-branded. And they just delivered another barrel, so I'm going to start the whole process over again in a month or 2.
That bar was absolutely superb. It was really wonderful.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I just snuck a piece in while you guys were talking about it, and it's really good.
Isn't it neat how the rye whiskey flavor kind of expands and
There's like it's kind of like a creamier mouthfeel with it.
Yeah, it really plays up that milky quality in the Honduras bean, I think.
And you don't add any additional cocoa butter. It's just the 2 ingredients, right?
It's just the 2 ingredients. There's a trace of cocoa butter if I'm tempering in my bowl temperer, but that's just 0.5%, which really helps me with tempering, but it doesn't impact the flavor or melt of the chocolate.
And there's already cocoa butter in the beans itself.
Yeah,
So
the beans, the
it's
beans
just
are.
how that it just came together as a more creamier experience than the actual 25%.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's the same percent too.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. The other fun thing about that is my husband and I got married at the base of Mount Chicora, and we filled the barrel on Valentine's Day last year, and then we emptied it on our anniversary. None of that was planned. It just worked out that way. Or this year, actually, not last year. So yeah, fun, and it's fun connections for the New Hampshire crowd too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
this has been so much fun.
Yeah, I have a poll I'm gonna just put up on the screen for you guys. I included so I have the 80% Tanzania, 75% Honduras, 74 Haiti, 72 Belize, and I also threw in the 72 Trinidad in case you really wanted to vote for it. So I'm going to launch it right now, so you'll see it on your screens. For those who have two, you could do 2 votes. It's totally fine. Just like verbally say your other vote, and we'll tally it up.
Second one.
Oh, that was good.
Could you supposed to verbally say yours? Or was yours?
Or same.
Oh. I know, but it needs to be counted twice, though.
Did you like the others or just really like Honduras?
We responded once, but we had the same person,
Okay.
but it's double R's.
Oh, same with us.
All right. So okay. So I received 4 votes of 6. So I think that makes sense, right? Anna, you didn't vote, right?
I did not.
Okay. Is that what he biased?
They're all my babies.
I was gonna say, you can't pick a favorite child, right?
All right. So I'm going to end it and I'm going to share it. So the winner is the 72% Belize.
Oh,
There you go.
Wow.
So if I had to pick a favorite, it would, I don't know. I think I like the Tanzania one, but the Belize was also really good. So I'm torn. So we'll make it that my vote doesn't count, and you guys could celebrate Belize.
we're going to celebrate all these countries. And there's an interesting note to our tasting sequence. It is the classic traditional way to start with the highest percentage. But I find that Tanzania is so bright and bold, it can upset what comes next, which in this case is a really gentle, subtle bean. So I actually often start my tastings with the Honduras and then skip back up to the higher percentage fruity notes bars. I know when I did the tasting with the other Honduran makers last week, the hosts actually started with the lowest percentage and moved their way up. I think that had to do with sharing the event with people who were less experienced with tasting chocolate and getting people just sugared up right at the start.
Cool. Yeah, so that's all I have. So what else do you have going on? And outside of going into overdrive and making more chocolate, what's up?
I just when people walk in the door these days, I just say, welcome to my peppermint purgatory. All I'm doing is making peppermint bars, peppermint slabs, peppermint bark, peppermint puppies, peppermint snowflakes, puppies holding puppies. I know a veterinarian staff who might be getting peppermint bars in the near future.
You're pointing to Susan. Was
Yeah,
that
I
correct?
love that.
Oh yeah, well my grid is different, so yeah, I think the veterinarian knows who she is.
So that's Rogers. So Rogers below me. Oh
And
wait,
Jody, yeah,
hey there, Jody. You can only see
they're
it.
in my middle. Anyway, yeah. So for what I have coming ahead is 2 weeks of holiday shopping extravaganza, and all of the people who are ordering from me online are really lucky folks who are in the know, because I'm so overwhelmed with orders in person as well as online that I'm actually not, I don't know if anyone's noticed, I'm not promoting anything online. I'm not posting our website, shop here for holiday gifts, because I can barely keep up, which is a good problem to have. I'm really grateful and thankful for our customers who are supporting us and sharing chocolate in what's a really challenging time in the world for all of us. I feel like we're each running our own personal marathons, but we're going to get through it, and I'm really grateful for the support I have and have had. And I'm looking forward to sleeping on December 25th for about a week. And then when I come back, I'm looking forward to doing something which I haven't done in about a year since we started making plans to move here, which is just recipe testing and flavor development and kind of going back to my roots of testing flavor combinations. And we'll look at new beans. I haven't introduced a new origin in over a year, not since the Trinidad. So I'm looking forward to that too, and really settling into the new space as a maker, not just a crazy hectic cafe owner trying to keep up with peppermint bark.
Hey, Enna, do you do drinking chocolate at your cafe?
I do, yes.
And what do you use for that?
I was wondering the same thing. Good question.
We're serving Belize today, but usually we serve Honduras in our drinking chocolate. When the world opens up, we will have flights. We'll have other origins, but right now, with the way the cafe is configured, without doing table service or any indoor service, it's easier to just serve one thing and make it really good and send people on their way. So we're just doing Honduras. We're just going through tons of it. And it's beautiful. It really is lovely to drink. And we bag it and sell it ready to prepare at home, which is nice because you can make it in almond milk or oat milk, whatever milk you like. You can make it thicker in water without almost a 1-to-1 chocolate ratio. So you can do the Spanish, stand your spoon up in the chocolate style drinking chocolate. You can sprinkle it on hot toast and it melts instantly. That's really good if there's lots of butter.
Ooh.
I do that with your Janduja bar.
Oh, yes, that was good. And I haven't made that again. See, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to making here next year.
I mean, it was last year. No, it was probably earlier this year. I think I did a post about it. I literally was craving hazelnut spread. And I'm just like, I don't have Nutella. That's like, the one I had was expired and I threw it out. So then I literally looked at my refrigerator my wine fridge full of chocolate bars. And I'm like, I have a couple of Janduja bars. So I took Enna's. I literally melted it in the microwave for a few seconds so that it was spreadable. Put it on bread. It was really good.
That sounds amazing. Okay, I'll try that. Yeah, the best treat here is to just bring like a banana in and slice it and take chocolate right out of the grinder and pour it on that. So that's another thing we're gonna have. You'll see that on the menu here is our chocolate ambrosia of sorts with fresh fruit and stuff with just chocolate right out of the machine on top.
Almost like a fondue.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
So somebody had mentioned Sierra Leone, and I remember that as well. So is that no longer available?
I just haven't bought new beans from there in a while. We have some. We'll be making another batch of that. Actually, I have enough beans left for 1 or 2 more batches. I'm actually really looking forward to trying the new harvest because that's another origin that's really in development with the quality. Those beans are basket fermented, and they part of that process results in a lot of dust. So they're really a little unappealing to work with because they raise so much dust just when we're sorting the beans and working with them, handling them. So I actually have put them in a barrel and just let them sit while we handled our move here, but we'll get back to them. They are absolutely delicious.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a certain amount of space in that factory and cafe. Where do you store your beans? Is it like a storage unit or a kitchen or something? Or?
They are in the Loctite blue barrels. This one we're roasting right now, so it doesn't have the crank on it, but they're in here.
Cool.
That is where they are when they're next to the roaster. And then we have several barrels in the basement, which is not climate controlled, but it is a stable temperature. It's dry enough, and they're in those barrels, so they're kind of hermetically sealed and
Cool.
protected from moths. I haven't seen a moth since we moved here, so that's my biggest.
Nice. Very cool.
Everywhere there's flour or nuts or seeds of any sort, moths are soon to follow. So we keep an eye out for.
It's awesome that you guys put this together for us. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great.
It was nice to have a guided tasting. You know, it's a much better experience than just having 4 bars and tasting them on my own. So whoever thought of this idea, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, Glenn offered to do it when we were starting our Indiegogo campaign in the spring. And I said, that's brilliant. And now here we are, 8 months and lots of other experiences under our belt.
Yep. Whole different world since then. Who knew?
Yeah. But thank you very much for joining us, everyone. And thank you, Glenn, for sharing your tasting resources and knowledge with us. And I look forward to hearing about Tiara getting your bars to taste. And some of you are closer, so I'll see you, some of you very soon, I'm assuming. I know one person right there who needs some hot chocolate, so.
I do. I'll be in
Gotcha.
with you tomorrow.
Okay, we've got it.
Well, now you have plenty of bars. You have plenty left over of the bars. You could just chop it up really fine, and then put it into your milk, and then there you go. Heat up the milk.
That's what I always tell people, you know, if one of these bars is too dark for you or too something, just drink it or make brownies. Or if you forget about it and it's been in your pantry for a year, make brownies, drink it. Yeah,
I have
it'll
these-
always be good that way.
But I think I've mastered the drinking chocolate. It's gotten really good the last couple times.
Oh, good, good. Nice. Did you get the electric whisk?
No, but I've been hand whisking it and then
Okay.
letting it sit. And
We'll show you the electric whisk when you come in tomorrow. It's pretty cool.
okay.
I also have an Aero latte. The
Ooh,
frother I use for
Yeah.
my matcha lattes. That
Nice.
I also do for, I give it a little burst of frothiness whenever I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a handheld, a USB chargeable whisk that's tiny, and it makes the chocolate really foamy. It's nice. Everyone's saying, ooh, I can see that. So you all need to order those.
Yeah. Thank you. That was terrific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We-
Really
Thank
fun.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a great holiday. If you don't see
Yeah.
You too.
you. Bye.
Hmm.
Oh, that's it. That's it, Trish. That's what I got. That's the Aero
Yes,
latte, right?
that's it. Yep. That's like mine, but different.
Oh, wait, that's the whisk you're talking about.
A little, yeah, mine's a different brand. Mine's double. It has 2 wire things. It goes a little crazy.
Okay. Gotcha.
Super fun. Thank you very much.
Right,
Thanks,
thanks.
you guys.
You guys.
Hey.
Bye.
Good night.